Good morning, everyone. For those who don't know me, I'm Julie Peachy, and I'd like to share a bit about myself and why this is a good time for me to serve on Vestry. I'm sorry I'm not with you in person today. I'm actually away with my daughter Annalise and a group of her friends celebrating her 17th birthday. Speaking of her friends, one of the things that is special to me about St. James is that even though we aren't from Lancaster, our family has grown up here and developed lifelong friendships. Two of the girls with us this weekend are like sisters to Annalise, having formed bonds in their early years here in CYF activities. St. James has fostered these connections, building deep and lasting relationships for these girls as well as our families. Paul and I moved to Lancaster in 2008, escaping Washington, D.C. with two little kids in tow for a more family-friendly life. We spent the first few months visiting a wide variety of churches. We pretty quickly landed on St. James, despite neither of us having any Episcopal background. We were drawn in by its friendly welcome, engaging members, beautiful spaces, and a brand new rector with an international perspective. I grew up in a Methodist church. My mom's family was pretty diehard Methodist. In fact, one of my aunts was a Methodist pastor. It was probably a pretty typical experience. But then in my late 20s, when I was trying to find my place in the world, I found myself longing for something more. And I discovered a non-denominational church near where I was living in Chicago at the time. That period of my life was transformative, shaping not only my faith, but also my understanding of community and service. I won't tell the story after that of going on a scuba diving trip to Honduras, which then turned into 2 years there, a career change into international development, and then a move to Washington, D.C., where Paul and I met. But feel free to ask me about it sometime. As is the case with many of you, my faith journey has taken twists and turns, feeling deep at some times and shallow at others. One of the things I love about St. James is that there are people from so many faith backgrounds and experiences, each with their own twists and turns. And the church is able to offer a rich variety of opportunities for worship, learning, building community, and experiencing God. I have been active in a number of things here at St. James: CYF, contemplative spiritual practices, forum, retreats, a pilgrimage to Israel. St. James is a place to develop and utilize one's spiritual gifts. One story I'd like to share is that when our son Eric was 3 and we were new to St. James, I thought that one of the things a good Christian mom does is teach Sunday school. So I volunteered to teach the 3-year-olds. After a couple of months, struggling to keep my own child in check for an hour, much less teaching others' kids, I sheepishly went to the CYF director at the time and told her I couldn't do it anymore. She was kind and gracious, and shortly after that, I ran into Father David, and he said something unexpected to me. He said, "I was wondering why you were doing that." And it's true that sometimes others, especially a parish priest, know us better than we know ourselves. And certainly that is true of God. One of the better ways I found to use my gifts here at St. James was serving on the Board of Endowment Trustees. That actually fits much better with my background in accounting and finance and my experience working in roles connected to impact investing. Over the 6 years that I was on BOET, I learned much about our church's finances and investments and the important interactions between BOET and Vestry. This feels like a good time for me to serve on Vestry. A few years ago, I didn't have that same feeling when I was asked to run. I guess having one child out of the house definitely frees up some mental and physical energy. If elected to Vestry, I will look to leverage my experience on BOET, my business background, and my professional work in financial empowerment. I intend to support ways to build community, faith, contemplation, and action at St. James. I recently felt inspired by a devotional by Richard Rohr, one of my favorites, and I'd like to read it to you now as a way of painting the picture of how I see Christian community here at St. James. A Christian community is evangelized in order to evangelize. A light is turned on in order to give light. People do not light a candle and put it under a basket, said Christ. They light it and put it up high so that it gives light. Matthew 5:15. That is true community, A community is a group of women and men who have found the truth in Christ and in his gospel and joined together to follow the way of truth more resolutely. It is not just a matter of individual conversion, but of community conversion. A community is a family that believes. It is a group where each member accepts God and feels strengthened by the others. In their moments of weakness, they help one another and love one another. They shed the light of their faith as an example for others. When that happens, the preachers no longer need to preach because they are Christians whose very lives have become a form of preaching. Now, don't worry, I'm not suggesting that we get rid of Father David, Mother Stacy, or Father Glenn. We need them, but I think you get the picture. So thank you for considering me for this important role of serving on the vestry here at St. James. I would be delighted to serve in that role. Bye.
Good morning, everybody. How are you all doing out there? I'm going to be a little bit more impromptu, and I'm going to read a couple things because I don't want to have you, as that snow is starting to happen out there, be too long-winded. So, as Father David said, I'm Lisa Groff, and I'll apologize now for many of you that do know me, but many of you don't know me. I'm going to tell you a little bit about myself. Born and raised in Lancaster, baptized, confirmed, and married in St. James. Went to J.P. McCaskey High School, Elizabethtown College, joined my family's funeral business, the Groff Funeral Home, in 1991 as a licensed funeral director. Spent most of my time helping people pre-plan their funerals. Yeah, I know. Everyone goes, I don't want to do that. But people did want to do that in the 90s when I joined, so that was where I spent most of my time with my dad and my parents leading me in this new profession for me. So as a fourth generation funeral director, I was able to fill my dreams to change the look and feel of funeral service after Dad and Ellen sold the funeral home in 1999 at 234 West Orange Street. I didn't realize that, what I was disappointed, but what I didn't realize is there was an opportunity for me to do something a little bit entrepreneurial and something that was a little bit more in keeping with what I saw when I came into funeral services, very heavy drapes, dark rooms, and that sort of feeling. When I went there, I said, oh boy, let's turn up the lights and get a little light into this situation. So what I felt was this is an opportunity for my brother Fred and I to reestablish our family business up the street at 528 West Orange Street, where we currently are. Basically, we have been there since 2010, although we did have, our great-grandfather, Fred F. Groff, who started the funeral business in 1899, felt as though that we needed to carry on this rich tradition of our family. My purpose to do this was to be able to have family come back and carry on our historic 1899 business, which again, great-grandfather Fred F. Groff was really quite well known in Lancaster in those times. He was the guy who was leading the parade down the street and on the white horse. I don't think we have that anymore, but that was great-grandfather. So today I'm blessed to be working with my brother and my nephew Spencer. We're all members of St. James, and working closely with me in the funeral business. So that is my background. Now I'd like to talk to you a little bit about what we're here to talk about, is running for the vestry. What I bring to the vestry, I feel, will be an entrepreneurial and business acumen. As we heard, Julie talk, she also has that background. I think it was Father Peter Eaton that got me on the endowment board a long time ago to serve on that as a parishioner. And so basically I would like to share with you a little bit of my 6 decades of being in this church. Outside the church, I've been involved in Lancaster community and many nonprofit organizations and held a number of chair positions, which I won't go down the list of those, but this community is so amazing. I mean, when I came back to Lancaster, it is thank you, perfect timing on that. It is the most amazing community. This church is the most amazing community, and I never realized how much we are blessed to have all the different organizations and this church and what they do for the different organizations and how they overlap and help people and are there for people. So, it was immediately that I was engaged in trying to work with the community and work as a nonprofit board member. So when the first call came in a couple years ago, I think Father David said, would you consider Vestry? I was not ready to do that because of the time I was putting into getting a business started and getting the business reestablished, and my parents saying, why do you really want to do that? That's a lot of work and a lot of money, and are you sure you want to go through all that? And I said, yes, I do. So when the call came in, Kit, thank you so much for giving me a call and coming to visit with me. I think it was about 5 minutes that we had together when I immediately said, yes, I'm ready now. I'm ready to consider this and help this great church. Okay, so what I want to do is share with you a perspective. I found in COVID, during the pandemic, a very stressful time, particularly in my business and what was happening around the world. I called up Father David. I said, Father David, how am I going to get through this? I have a lot of people that work with me. We have a lot of fear in what's going on. We don't know anything about this pandemic. And thank you, Father David, for getting me involved in this Compline group that is now part of my life. Every night we have Compline and we get to share what's going on and calm ourselves. And that group is such a great, I would have never thought of that as a younger person, how we're going to be on a Zoom call to have influences like that, and all the other initiatives that have gone on here at St. James from the time the dad, as I see the snow going out there, said, you are going to go to church. And then since I was 4 years old, we had 2 feet of snow and couldn't get our cars out, and said, you have got to get over these snowbanks. We were going to get to Columbia Avenue, and we are going to get a ride into St. James, even though maybe no one will be there, but we are going to get there to go to St. James. So I have been instilled since the early 60s that get your butt up, and of course as younger college students, and we'd come home and be at home with family and maybe had a little bit too much fun the night before. Get up, you're going to church, you're going to sit in that pew, and you were going to... So all that instilling that my parents have given to me, this church has really become my second home. And as a second home, you want to see this place thrive. And I have seen that for the last 60 years. And in particular, the last 20 years, I've just been so impressed by what we've been able to do and what this church really does. And I'm learning more acronyms like CYF and all the other things I've learned today that we listen to in the church of different things that I haven't been involved in. And I can't wait to, find out more as I want to get involved with the one that Sylvia and Alyssa and they shared with us, because going to McCaskey, I really had a wonderful experience there and want to be part of the, what is it called? Sacred Grounds group, yes. So there's just so many wonderful things that I just am so impressed by, and I feel as though as a Vestry person, I can give more time now to devote to the meetings and to putting more time here at St. James. So I feel as though I'm honored to serve if that's what is meant to be. And I thank you all for taking a little time to listen to my story and rambling on and didn't follow my script here at all. So as I said, Bob Groff would be very proud of me. And one thing I'll leave with is having 2 parents who are life Vestry people. I said, they really put in a lot of time and a lot of work in that and care into this church, and time, talent, and treasure. And I do want to follow in that same vein as well that they've taught and they've shown as being a mentor and an example to me. Thank you so much.
Good morning. Would this be a bad time to tell you that winter is my favorite season of the year? Did I just tank my candidacy? Probably. Okay. I want to thank you for the opportunity to talk with you today about my background and my interest in pursuing this particular position in service to St. James community. My name is Barbara Hoshuskin. For most of my journalism career, I worked at Lancaster newspapers, now LNP and Lancaster Online. I began my tenure there as a general assignment reporter before assuming leadership roles that led to my appointment as executive editor for what had become a 24/7 print and digital local news operation. I took on that role at a time of great change in technology and certainly in our political landscape, but both significantly affected the way people consume news, and thus my job and the way we did what we do. I embraced the opportunity, and I hoped I packed with me the best of my experience, my knowledge, my determination, and love for and understanding of the Lancaster County community. It was not lost on me that when I took this position, I was also the first woman in the history of the organization to lead the newsroom, which came with its own unique set of challenges. That is a whole nother 10, 12 hours. But keeping in mind that LNP's roots go back all the way to President Washington's administration. Now, obviously, that is a youngster compared to St. James, but you get where I'm going with that. It was a long tenure. Fast forward to the end of August of last year, and my retirement as Director of Legislative Affairs for the Harrisburg-based Pennsylvania News Media Association. This group advocates statewide for the news media industry, local journalism, First Amendment freedoms, and open and accountable government. In my mind, it was a great way to circle back on my journalism career, because there's really no better gig in these times than to go around the state and reminding people, sometimes pounding into their heads, why our First Amendment freedoms are so important in this country. I said retirement because I continue to work for the organization as a part-time consultant and lobbyist. So now, I have to say, whenever I tell someone I'm a lobbyist, they look at me and they start to cross their eyes. We don't deal really with money in what we do. We're really dealing in ideas, concepts, and American principles. So just keep that in mind. I was a political science major in college and decided to abandon plans to go to law school, basically because I stopped resisting persistent signs that were nudging me toward a career in journalism. My dad was a journalism major at Eastern Illinois University, which is where I come from, when he answered the call to Christian ministry. And in his case, it was in the Congregational Church. His faithful service to God, which was matched only by the steadfastness of my mother, a nurse from Lancaster, laid the foundation for an extraordinary spiritual journey that continues to weave its way through my professional roles, my personal loves, and calls to Christian service. I often joke that my attendance at church Bible studies, potlucks, worship services, summer camps, and board meetings began in utero and in very robust fashion. And really it is true, and it did begin in utero. Reared in the United Church of Christ and spending most of my adulthood as a United Methodist, I served as a child as an acolyte, a choir and youth fellowship member. I attended Sunday school. And as a preacher's kid, or PO, or as they're often called now, theological offspring, or TOs, as some people in the church wanted to see us, did see us, but really mostly wanted to see us as perfect angels. We were not. I had a brother and a sister, or I still have a brother and sister. It was not unusual for our parents to want to invite individuals who were lonely, alone, homeless, sometimes not smelling the best or looking the best, to our Sunday dinners and even our Christmas meals. Now, we always would have a family vote, so it would be like, okay, we're having a family meeting, and then we would vote on whether we were going to include these people in our celebrations. Now, we kids were not sinister in where we were coming from, but we just wanted to be with our parents. So our votes were always no way, okay? I'm not particularly proud of that, but in the sake of honesty, I'll share that. Somehow, though, there were 3 of us, there were 2 of them, they always won out. So we always had these people, these individuals, in our community at these dinners. And of course, as we got through the dinner, we had a great time. Everything was wonderful. And it was like, why didn't we want to do this in the first place? But I also think that God probably had the 2 deciding votes, so that's probably how that worked out. But I realized over time, and I think my brother and sister are still working on this, but I did realize over time that we learned that hearts and dining room tables can really expand and expand and expand. And there was always plenty of food. We never had to worry about that. So it was a wonderful life lesson for us and for me. One of my most probably transformative experiences related to church as a young person came during high school and college when I was part of a work camps at a Heifer International Distribution Center. It was a ranch in South Dakota where we worked among the kind, generous, and proud Dakota Sioux. In my prior church in Lancaster, I served as a Sunday school teacher, administrative board member, child care center president, committee chair for social justice and community outreach, and as a liaison between the church and our pastors. My decision to transfer membership to St. James nearly 6 years ago was the culmination of decades of feeling the constant pull of this church, as I described in my written bio. The church's extraordinary leadership and history, worship, music, programs, commitment to mission in not only Lancaster City and the county, but beyond, was a real draw for me. As a matter of fact, I went back into the newspaper archives. It was early in 1986, when I was only a couple years into my journalism career, that I was assigned a story about the opening of a new day room in downtown Lancaster. This Monday through Friday ministry at St. James, which many of you I'm sure remember or may have participated in, was established to serve people who were transient and or lonely. And this is a quote: "Our Lord himself, for most of his ministry, was homeless, a wandering teacher who befriended people in the streets and countryside." The rector at the time, Reverend Stanley Imboden, told me during an interview. "We felt," he continued, "that our parish here at Duke and Orange is really blessed with location." Wow, I remember thinking, even now, this is a church in action. Now that I am here, I know that's still to be true, and I want to play a role in that, a bigger role in that. I typically attend the 8:30 service. I'm part of Altar Guild, helping to prepare the table for Holy Communion. And what began for me as an opportunity to serve and also to meet people, I now view as a sacred responsibility that I really am honored and humbled to fill. I also continue to meet people through this ministry and service as a Eucharistic minister, and I've been greeted with kindness and interest, and as is the case with Vestry candidacy, friendly nudges to step a little bit beyond my comfort zone. So, and I would just say here, herein lies my only frustration with St. James, and that is, this is one big church. There's a lot going on. There's several services. And I want to get to know everyone. I think it comes with my career in journalism, always asking questions and wanting to get to know people. I want to know everyone and their stories yesterday. So I found this process to be especially overwhelming, but I really do think I'm up to the task. So I'm still working on it, and I've made a commitment to wear my name tag as much as I can to help in that process. So I would just end with the fact that my spiritual journey has weaved its way through all aspects of my life, as I mentioned earlier. Yet it brings me to this particular time and space. And I certainly believe I would bring professional leadership, communication, management, and human resource skills to this role. But I believe that even more essential than these particular resume bullet points is the ability to tap the human gifts that deepen commitment and growth. Having a vision, making informed decisions, listening, communicating clearly, being a good steward, remaining open-minded, working collaboratively, and respecting tradition while embracing the kinds of change that are as necessary as they are extraordinarily uncomfortable. Most of all, to do all of this with a spirit of joy. Thank you for your interest in me and allowing me to come before you and chat a little bit today. It's a great opportunity, and I appreciate you considering me.
Thank you, and good morning. I was very surprised to get the call to do this role. My professional career in life has been in a completely different direction. I come from Florida. I am a cradle Catholic, as they call them, and I was privileged enough to be in a family with 4 other brothers and sisters. I'm the oldest, that had a sense of working hard and also volunteering in the community. My father introduced me to Habitat for Humanity at a young age. Even though we grew up somewhat poor, it was nice to get out in the community and help others that needed it. I wanted to be a priest when I was in high school and thought that was exactly my path. And thankfully, I chose a different path because I, of course, have a very rich life now because of it. I left for the Navy to seek something totally new and fascinating, which was to be on nuclear-powered submarines and operate their reactor systems. The GI Bill then afforded me the opportunity to go to Penn State, which was a marvelous opportunity. I was able to excel there, graduate with a degree in chemistry, which my love of chemistry still, continues to persist, and then go on to graduate school at the University of Missouri for chemical engineering. When this was following the financial crisis, I needed a job, so rather than complete the PhD, I decided to get a job here and came to Lancaster, mostly because of 3 Mile Island, Peach Bottom, and Limerick, which is about roughly an hour away from Lancaster. I figured I'd hedge my bets on, anything would close. And it was a wonderful opportunity. It was scary because it was a job I had never had before, but I jumped into it and got a lot of lumps out of it, but I really enjoyed what I was doing, really protecting people and the public in the service of what I believe is clean energy. My wife and I met, kind of a long story, I won't really get into it, but we had a long distance relationship. She lived in Toronto and I lived in Columbia, Missouri at the time when I was in grad school, and we decided we were going to get married. So once I graduated, we came here to Lancaster and we loved it. And a few years later, after we were married, we decided we were going to make St. James our home. This was a fantastic opportunity and we've never looked back. So that we're glad we found a home for both of us. Again, I was raised Catholic and she was raised in the United Church of Canada, which is this odd mixture of Presbyterianism and some Methodism, and beautiful. I've been to her church in her rural hometown in Quebec, and it's a fantastic church, and actually reminds me a lot like St. James. So I believe, in that way, it was very home-like for her. We loved the music. We loved the message here. We liked the work that people had done to help other people in the community. I've been at Constellation now working as an engineer for many years, and throughout that time I've been able to give back to the community. I've worked in a lot of different roles, Junior Achievements, South Central Pennsylvania, and with the Winter Shelter for the women, and the Cub Scouts. So my particular passion, though, is helping young men and women find their path, find something that really excites them and interests them. And so even going to the elementary school kids and talking to them about careers in the military, careers in engineering and science, careers in the energy industry, though I am very biased to it, I still think that that's something that a lot of kids could use, right? So I was able to go to my son's classroom and talk to their students when they were in the second grade, and a lot of them had so many questions. It was really endearing. So what I'm working on now is a grant to help the workforce here in Lancaster. We're centrally located, and our company seeks to maintain the workforce, and a highly trained and well-paid workforce I think is helpful for the community. I'm very happy to have been asked to be nominated for this role in the Vestry, and thank you very much for your support.